The air is thick. The noise is deafening. You are standing in the center of a machine that consumes human lives to pump out glory. It is the 1st century ad, and you are in the belly of Rome. 1 million people are crammed into just over 5 square miles. The heat radiates from the paving stones. How does a city of 1 million people survive without electricity, steel, or combustion engines? You look around and see a metropolis that defies the laws of nature. You expect primitive huts and muddy streets, but instead, you are surrounded by towering apartment blocks, colossal marble temples, and fountains continuously pouring clean water into the streets. You are witnessing the absolute peak of ancient engineering. The reality of Rome is far more terrifying and awe-inspiring than any myth. Your ancestors did not build this city with magic or alien technology. They built it with mud, blood, volcanic ash, and an absolute, ruthless obsession with order. Take a step back from the marble facades. You need to understand the brutal anatomy of this megacity. Modern cities rely on invisible networks of wires and pressurized pipes. Rome relied on gravity, human muscle, and the sheer willpower of an empire. To understand how this impossible city functions, you have to look down into the dirt. You have to look at the chemistry of the earth itself. The secret to Rome's eternal nature is not its marble, but its mud. Imagine you are a builder standing on the coast of the Bay of Naples. You scoop up a handful of volcanic ash. The Romans called it pozzolana. You mix this ash with lime and chunks of volcanic rock. You add water. What happens next is a chemical reaction that will change the course of human history. The mixture begins to heat up. It cures. It hardens into a synthetic stone that can set even underwater. You are holding the world's first true concrete, opus cementitium. This is the forgotten technology that built an empire. Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, military engineer and architect, writing in the 1st century BC, documented this process meticulously. In his masterwork, De Architectura, Vitruvius knew that this volcanic ash, found near Mount Vesuvius, created a material that was practically indestructible. You can pour it into wooden molds. You can shape it into colossal domes. You can build bridges across raging rivers. Look at the modern concrete surrounding you today. It rusts, cracks, and crumbles after 50 years because of the steel rebar hidden inside. Your Roman ancestors did not use steel reinforcement. Their concrete structures, like the breathtaking dome of the Pantheon, have stood unyielding for 2 millennia. But concrete alone does not sustain 1 million lives. You cannot drink concrete. You cannot eat it. A city of this magnitude is a biological time bomb. Without a massive, continuous supply of fresh water, disease will eradicate the population in a matter of weeks. The terrifying reality of this era is that water is heavy. Stagnant water is deadly, and pumping it requires energy that simply does not exist. So, how do you quench the thirst of 1 million people? You bend the landscape to your will. You build the aqueducts. Look up at the horizon. You see massive stone arches cutting across the countryside, marching toward the city like a stone army. These are not just bridges. They are precision-engineered artificial rivers. You are looking at the Aqua Appia, the Aqua Marcia, the Aqua Claudia. To build them, you must calculate a microscopic downward slope, dropping just a few inches every mile. For dozens of miles, you join a crew of Roman surveyors. You hold a tool called a corybates, a 20-foot-long wooden beam with a water channel carved into the top, used to measure a perfectly level line across uneven terrain. The labor is brutal. You carve through solid mountains. You build miles of subterranean tunnels to keep the water cool and safe from enemy poison. You raise arches 100 feet high to carry the channel across deep valleys. If your calculations are off by even a fraction of a degree, the water will pool and stagnate, or it will rush too fast and destroy the masonry. When the water finally reaches the city, it does not stop. It flows continuously into massive distribution tanks called castella aquae. From there, it is routed through lead and terracotta pipes to public baths, elite villas, and hundreds of street fountains. You can hear the constant, rushing sound of water everywhere. In Rome, it is the heartbeat of the city. Sextus Julius Frontinus, who was appointed water commissioner of Rome in 97 AD, knew the system better than anyone. He realized that an empire is only as strong as its administration. Frontinus documented every single pipe, every leak, and every corrupt official who illegally tapped into the water supply for their private estates. You read his meticulous logs, De Aqueductu, and you realize that Rome was not just an engineering marvel, it was an administrative machine. Maintenance was an obsession. Without constant vigilance, mineral buildup would choke the channels and the city would die of thirst. But water coming in means water must Go out. 1 million people generate a staggering amount of human waste every single day. The stench of a typical ancient city would burn your lungs. Rome, however, has a secret weapon buried deep underground. You descend into the darkness beneath the Roman Forum. You are standing in the Cloaca Maxima, the Great Drain. Originally built as an open canal to drain a malarial swamp, it was eventually covered and expanded into a massive subterranean sewer network. It is large enough that you could sail a boat through it. The continuous flow of excess water from the aqueducts flushes the human waste and street runoff directly into the Tiber River. It is a brutal, effective system. The reality of ancient hygiene is horrifying by modern standards, but without the Cloaca Maxima, Rome would have drowned in its own filth. Survival, however, requires more than just water and sanitation. You are hungry. 1 million stomachs demand food every single day. The Italian peninsula cannot produce enough grain to feed this monster. If the grain ships stop arriving, the city will starve, and the people will riot within days. You are standing at the docks of Ostia, Rome's primary port. The scale of the logistics is mind-bending. You watch hundreds of massive merchant ships arriving from Egypt and North Africa, the breadbaskets of the empire. They are carrying millions of tons of wheat. This is the Cora Annoni, the imperial grain dole. The state heavily subsidizes or freely distributes grain to hundreds of thousands of citizens. It is not charity. It is a calculated mechanism of control. Keep the masses fed, keep them entertained, and they will not burn the city down. You follow the grain as it is unloaded by thousands of enslaved laborers. It is transported up the Tiber River on barges towed by oxen. You walk into a massive complex of warehouses, the Horia, where the grain is stored in temperature-controlled rooms, with raised floors to prevent rot and keep out rats. The administrative overhead to manage the supply chain, using only clay tablets, wax, and papyrus, is staggering. Now, look at where these people live. You are walking away from the monumental marble center and into the Subura, the densely packed residential district. This is the real Rome. You are looking at the insili, ancient apartment blocks rising 5, 6, or even 7 stories high. They are built with timber and cheap brick. They are incredibly dangerous. The wealthy live on the bottom floors, where it is safer and cooler. You climb the narrow, dark stairs to the upper floors. You are a poor plebeian. You live in a single, cramped room. There is no running water up here. You have to carry your waste down to the street, or, as is often the case, dump it out the window. The heat in the summer is suffocating, but the real terror is fire. You cook over open braziers. Oil lamps provide your only light. One knocked over lamp, and the entire block will go up in flames. Fire is the apex predator of the Roman megacity. You hear the screams in the night as an insula catches fire. The flames spread instantly through the timber frames. You witness the ruthlessness of Roman capitalism. Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of the wealthiest men in Roman history, arrives with his private brigade of firefighters, but they do not put out the fire immediately. Crassus offers to buy the burning building and the surrounding properties for a fraction of their value. If the owner refuses, Crassus lets the building burn to the ground. If they agree, his men extinguish the flames, and Crassus expands his real estate empire. It is a brutal, extortionate reality. To govern this chaos, you need infrastructure that connects Rome to the edge of the known world. You walk out of the city gates and onto the Via Appia, the Appian Way. It is a highway made of massive, tightly fitted basalt blocks. It is perfectly straight. It cuts through hills and bridges, ravines. This road was not built for merchants. It was built for the legions. You watch a column of heavily armed Roman soldiers marching at a terrifying pace. The roads allow Rome to project military power faster than any civilization in history. But the roads also act as arteries, pumping wealth, slaves, and resources back into the heart of the megacity. The engineering is so precise that water drains off the curved surface into ditches on the side. You're looking at pavement that will still be usable 2,000 years later, but maintaining morale in a crowded, dangerous city requires distraction. You are swept up in a massive crowd moving toward the Flavian Amphitheater. You know it as the Colosseum. It is a monument to both engineering genius and sheer human brutality. You look up at the towering travertine walls. Inside, 80,000 people are seated according to their strict social class. The Emperor Titus watches from the imperial box. You are witnessing the manipulation of mass psychology. The games are a demonstration of the empire's reach. You see exotic animals from the deepest parts of Africa being slaughtered. You see gladiators fighting to the death. but the engineering beneath the arena floor is what truly boggles the mind. You are looking at the Hypogeum, a massive 2-story subterranean network of tunnels, cages, and mechanical elevators. Hundreds of slaves operate complex pulley systems to raise wild beasts and gladiators onto the arena floor through trapdoors. It is a theatrical machine of death, designed to reinforce the narrative that Rome conquers everything. At one point, the arena is completely flooded to stage a mock naval battle, and now Machia. You watch real warships maneuvering in the artificial lake. The engineering required to divert an aqueduct, flood the arena, and then drain it rapidly using advanced sluice gates is a testament to their absolute mastery over water. Yet, for all its stone and concrete, Rome is fragile. The counterintuitive truth about the fall of this megacity is that it was not destroyed in a single, fiery apocalypse. It did not vanish overnight. It collapsed because the maintenance stopped. You jump forward in time to the 5th and 6th centuries AD. The political administration has fractured. The wealth has dried up. You see the aqueducts beginning to leak. The Castella Aquae run dry. Without water, the baths close. Without water, the Cloaca Maxima stops flushing, and disease runs rampant. You watch as the barbarian tribes realize they do not need to breach the towering Aurelian walls to defeat Rome. They only need to cut the aqueducts. Once the water stops, the city begins to choke. The population plummets from 1 million to a few tens of thousands. You see survivors building small villages inside the ruins of the Colosseum and the baths of Caracalla. They strip the marble facades to burn down into lime. For mortar, the grandest city on earth slowly cannibalizes itself. Reflect on your own modern existence. You live in a world of glass and steel, heavily dependent on fragile, interconnected systems. You assume your infrastructure is permanent, but look closely at your crumbling bridges, your strained power grids, your aging water pipes. Rome is not just a story of the past. It is a mirror reflecting the terrifying vulnerability of any complex society. The Romans achieved the impossible through discipline, chemistry, and an obsession with infrastructure. They built a machine that outlasted their empire, but they also proved that the moment you stop maintaining the machine, nature reclaims it all. You are left standing in the ruins, wondering if the monuments of your time will endure as long as the concrete of Vitruvius, or if they will vanish into the dust of forgotten history.